A P to the V to the E production presents with James and Blue.
Worst MCU movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree too.
Like, it is dead last. Dude. That was the absolute bottom. Like, one, it had like this super pandering like soundtrack.
Yes.
Like there was so many better.
Even the clothing was pandering.
Yeah. Like it was really like it was like somebody who wasn't really a teenager or adult until like 2005 went back and found like a BuzzFeed listicle for like the top songs that were written by girls.
Yes.
You know, and that was what they made for the soundtrack. Instead of doing like bands like The Breeders or Four Non Blondes, like people who are actually like pushing feminist views like in the 90s and stuff like that. The Dixie Chicks who are actually like hardcore feminists all through the 90s. Yeah, we're not using any of that, but we're gonna use Hole, Courtney Love.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna use.
They just use popular songs. They looked at a Billboard checklist and were like, well, this one's cheap to buy and it has the high ratings.
I was definitely a huge participant in like 90s pop culture. I worked at Blockbuster.
Yep.
And like nothing about this tribute to the 90s movie said anything about the 90s.
It felt like fake 90s.
It really did.
Felt like a 90s movie when they made them a 90s movie, but they couldn't afford all the real stuff, so they just faked everything.
Dude, it seriously sounds like my kid was like, hey dad, tell me about the 90s, and then I told him about the 90s, and then he went and made a movie based off of what I told him, and he wrote down. Like he just kind of like took some notes and was like, all right, I think I can make a movie based on this.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was any problem with the real performances. I loved Annette Bening being Marvell. I liked the twist. I know a lot of people were pissed. Marvell should be a man. He doesn't have to be a man.
Oh, so yeah, I guess
I was like, he doesn't have to be a man. He just has to be Kree.
that whole scene of playing with her memories, I thought was cool.
So that was really done well. I would have rather had seen a Supreme Intelligence. They've done so well with CGI at this point that I would have liked to see them take a stab at it. Like they did really well with Dormammu. You could have shown me a Supreme Intelligence.
Yeah, they've shown like huge godly type creatures before.
Exactly.
So
like I get like a floating multi-eyed head floating in a jar is really cheesy. I get that. But like you took Aram Zola and you somehow made him cool in Captain America 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You made Ego a living planet. You did these things. You could do the same for the Supreme Intelligence.
Maybe they just couldn't think of anything. They just couldn't think of anything that was cool.
But like all of the storyline felt super shoehorned. I don't feel like the Skrull were really developed well in any direction.
No, I feel like they messed the scrolls up, to be honest with you.
They just kind of like, oh, by the way, they're Skrulls.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I felt. Like, you know.
Now we can use these scrolls for anything we want because they can shapeshift.
And then you got like Roman the Accuser shows up to Earth and was like, oh, we can't screw with this because they got the bad bitch on town, right? But then like when he shows up later, he's like, I don't know anything about Earth. Whatever. You know?
Yeah, it felt like they were shoehorning like all these other like aspects of other movies,
so,
even Nick Fury.
The whole Captain Marvel movie felt like to me like it was this forced entry and introduction to Captain Marvel so that she can make this big this big splash in Endgame. And then when I see her big scene in Endgame, I'm like, that could have been Scarlet Witch, that could have been Rescue.
Hell, could have been Iron Man.
Yeah, it could have been. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you wanted to keep like a strong
female character,
it could have been Gwyneth Paltrow as Rescue in her Iron Man armor.
Yeah, they showed her out there, so
you could have like started out showing how powerful Scarlet Witch is, like running through, and you're like, oh, I didn't know Scarlet Witch was that powerful.
I mean, they did show her how being powerful.
You could have Shuri in her own crazy, like, Black Panther arm. You could have a combination of the three taking on. There's so many ways they could have handled that without.
She was definitely shoehorned in both of those movies, Infinity War and was she in Infinity War? No, she wasn't in it, but just Endgame.
Just Endgame.
Yeah, she shoehorned in the beginning, shoehorned in the end.
So let me be absolutely clear. Like, I like Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. I think she makes a really good Carol Danvers. I think she's a really good casting for the character. I think that whoever's writing the script is trying really hard to pander to an audience and not write a good script for the character. And I know like a lot of like incels use that kind of like, I try to be careful, especially Captain Marvel, because people are like, oh, you hate that. It's not that I hate women characters. I'm all about their empowerment and stuff. but you should be able to empower them without shining a spotlight on the fact that you're empowering them.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like a really good example of that is the last episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian, right? So for a vast majority of that episode, you've got like an all-female squad team running through.
I remember telling Vanessa that too.
Kicking ass, dude. Just beating ass left
and it looked totally realistic, like full, exactly what the characters would do.
And there was never like a time where they stopped and like had an arrow like, hey everybody, this is an all-girl team. It was just,
like a freeze moment.
Yeah, there was none of that, like that big, like, by the way, we're pandering to like the, no, it was.
They didn't ever say like, this is a job only a women can do.
Yeah, there was a really organic story where you were able to display like the actual prowess and like professionalism there and whatnot, and get away from like all of the tropes and not have to like pat yourself on the back for it. And I feel like that was what Captain Marvel was. Captain Marvel was like a, hey, we support women in comic books, pat Marvel on the back for making this.
Yeah.
You know, like we deserve, and I'm like, and they should, like, you should have superheroes that are representations for little girls to look up to. I have a 13-year-old stepdaughter who, like, I'm all about getting her involved with comic book superheroes. And I'm all about, you know, like that. I love that, you know, you have a powerful character. So even more reason to have a good written movie and good story.
Yeah. It's like they didn't think of a good story and they just kind of pieced stuff together and here we go.
Dude, how freaking Nick Fury lost his eye? That's so jacked, dude. Like,
matter of fact, that movie leveled Nick Fury down for me.
I really
And we got SpiderMan
Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Spider-Man Far From Home was a far cry from Homecoming.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say nothing because I know you're a big Spider-Man. I was like, I'm gonna hear you first, and then I'll.
Nah. Spider-Man Far From Home is disappointing.
Yeah.
It was. I think like the worst part is I was disappointed in the movie. like in the middle of the movie, they disappointed me.
Yeah, what happened? What's the?
Well, it was like Mysterio. First, like that Mysterio, like being a hero and tricking them, and I was like, all right, that seems like a real Mysterio thing. And we mentioned the Marvel 616 and alternate universe. I was like, oh, that's cool Easter egg.
Yep.
And it was all, not for you. I'm just gonna be.
It's like it was like the Mandalorian or the Mandalore or whatever the Iron Man 3 guy. Mandarin. Yeah, it's just basically the same thing.
Yeah, like the bait and switch. So I even thought that was actually kind of clever. How like they showed like it was a bunch of people who were screwed over by Tony Stark.
Yeah, I did like that. But like, I was thinking again, Tony Stark screwed up even after.
Yeah, no, like I liked how they all band together and they're like, screw that, we're going to like take what's ours. Now that Tony's gone, we're going to take what's ours and make it ours. And I thought that was a really cool little side plot. And then they didn't really develop that. Then they were just like, even though this is happening, Mysterio's crazy and he's going to be crazy. The end. And they didn't really explain like why he was crazy.
Why did he want the glasses? He just wanted Tony Stark's tech for what? Was his end game to rule the world? Is that? I thought he just wanted to be a superhero. So if he just wanted to be a superhero, he could have used that same technology and just helped Spider-Man and Shield.
Yeah, but not like he just decided. That's what I'm saying. Like that. Like I don't really understand. Like, why was he chasing this tech? What was his end game? You know, like
what was
they're like, oh, we're going to embarrass Spider-Man because.
Like, what does Spider-Man do? He had nothing to do with Tony Stark.
Well, the Avengers and stuff. That's what they're trying to do is like embarrass the Avengers because.
Or I guess Spider-Man was the only one around. I guess or.
I mean, you know, yeah, everybody else is kind of dead and on the run. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was overall it was disappointing. I don't think it was horrible, but like there was stuff that should have been funny that wasn't funny, like the whole night monkey thing.
Oh yeah, it should have been funny and it
wasn't that great. I like the costume design at the end. The whole black and red looked really good. I thought that was cool.
The best part about that movie is just the ending when they reveal to the world that who he is. Cause I was like, ooh, how are they gonna write out of that one?
Yeah, that was definitely interesting.
So that did pique my interest at the end.
That was a good cliffhanger to drop off on, and I'm wondering how they're gonna resolve that and do like the whole Spider-Verse thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. We'll see.
That movie's gonna be so weird. That
in general, yeah, Far From Home was disappointing. I put it down towards the bottom. Like that's like a 23 for me, 22, 23.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
So, and like this is the unpopular opinion here. I feel like this was like a super wasted movie. Like it was like super comic relief, but it didn't do anything other than like establish Star-Lord as like a part god. Yeah. And basically it was like, why could Star-Lord hold the Infinity Stone at the end of the last movie? Well, here's an entire movie explaining why.
Like, was that an issue with the first Guardian of the Galaxy? Like, were people complaining about it?
Well, no, but it was just something that came up. You know, why could he do it? And
I thought he could do it because he had all his friends with him and stuff.
Well, it was because he's...
But also because he's part whatever, Setral or whatever they're called.
Celestial. Yeah. Ego is his dad sort of thing. It seemed like a weird way to, like, one, like, that was just a weird way of introducing Ego. Like, I mean, Ego is the living planet. Yeah. He's not a celestial, he's a living planet. That's what he is. He's just a planet that's alive.
They did have a picture of him as the planet, like
no, yeah, they did do that, and that was like a really cool, like, little Easter egg in there.
But for some reason, they kept some story like he can create like a single entity, and he can use that to travel without being in this planet form or something.
Yeah,
like
so one of the things that like got me, and it just didn't sit right with me, is if you look up the original Captain Marvel from the comic books, the dude looks like Kurt Russell. Like, he's got, like, the Kurt Russell friggin' hair and everything. Oh, right. Like, he straight up, and I was like, this is such a missed casting opportunity. Because he would have been a fantastic Marvel. Like perfect Marvel. But they're like, oh, we're going to make him Ego. And I'm like, but why? Like this guy is great, and I get that you're doing Brie Larson as Captain Marvel, but you could still have and they did have Marvel in there. Right. I did like how they handled that. We'll cover that later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like when we get to that movie. Yeah. But Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I thought it was a joke fest. Like the whole thing, it seemed like the story was more about making a joke than making a good Guardian of the Galaxy story.
Yeah, they were trying to sell jokes in a soundtrack.
Yeah. And so, like, I laughed. Yeah. You know, I definitely laughed. I liked a lot of the jokes in there, you know. The whole, like, you can't see me because I'm invisible.
Oh, yeah, that was a good joke. Or the emotion thing where they're all telling on Star-Lord that he loves, what's her name?
Oh, yeah. Like, there was, like, some really great dialogue.
And then I did like the raccoon little, him taking over or fighting all the Ravagers and stuff like that.
No, in terms of, like, you know, cohesive, like, characters, it was great. But, like, there wasn't really much of a story.
The gold people, I felt like they disrespected them. I felt like those people were been different in the comic books. They weren't as goofy and naive as they made them out to be.
So yeah, they're not.
Yeah, I kind of felt it.
Like, they're really not. And I mean, again, that was like another wasted like friggin' casting. One of the pilots that they were yelling at. Yeah, was a guy named Ben Browder who was like in a bunch of like sci-fi shows. He was in Stargate and like Farscape.
Oh, okay. So like all the sci-fi fans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like all the sci-fi fans, and like you have him as like this 7-second part.
Getting yelled at playing a video game almost looked like. Yeah. I didn't like that part either.
Yeah, no. And then, like their whole thing is they created Adam Warlock, which they showed at the end of the movie. That was the after.
Do you think they're going to ever go back to it?
Yeah, I think that the next Guardians movie is probably going to address that.
Oh, you think so? Because I kind of have a feeling it's going to be like them trying to search for, what's the name, Gamora. Which I hope it's not.
Well, because isn't there like a Gamora variant running around?
Yeah, and remember that he knows that it's out there, and I think he had like an idea of where she went. Yeah, and so like they're gonna be searching for her.
But you know, in that search, they could find Adam Warlock.
Yeah, yeah, because the gold people want their revenge and stuff. So
I don't know. I put this movie at like 21.
Oh, you got higher than me. See, so you thought I
was like, I could even go lower.
I got it 23. I liked it better than Thor 2.
I'm just gonna go ahead and match you. 23 sounds like a good number for that.
So Iron Man 3, this one's definitely controversial because of the big twist. I think that pissed a lot of people off.
What's big twist? Oh, the Mandarin?
Almost like Mephisto, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
but worse.
A lot of people were really angry about that.
Yeah.
However, there was a YouTube mini flick that went along with it that explains that what's his name, Ben Kingsley.
Oh yeah, I seen that. The
Yeah,
clip at the
it
end.
was just actually like a fake like stand-in or whatever.
And the guy has the gun to his face, and he's like, "The real Mandarin wants his name back," or something like
Yeah,
that.
and then like Shang-Chi is actually addressing that, you know.
Yeah, so that's why I don't mark it off. I wasn't so upset, maybe because I don't know too much about that character, so I wasn't extremely upset. As a matter of fact, when it happened, I laughed. I remember laughing at that scene when they found him and he was all goofy and stuff.
See, like, I grew up, growing up reading the comics, I was like, the fuck is this? No. There's so much wrong with this. Like it came out of left field. You're just like, what the hell? And then,
another thing that, sorry to interrupt,
Yeah,
another thing that also really bothered me after watching Iron Man 3 is the propaganda they used for the fake Mandarin. It was like too realistic propaganda, you know what I mean? Like they made them extremely evil and it was all fake. And then it's like, oh, I don't know about that. You guys went a little
I didn't like how they displayed AIM. I didn't like how they were introducing that. I didn't feel like Guy Pearce was a whole character.
Yeah.
You know, like his glowy effect thing was really cool.
Kind of.
Like, I did like the whole protocol where they call all the Iron Man in.
Yeah, I thought
that's a really cool scene. But overall, I felt like it was a really weak movie. Like
the best part about Iron Man 3 for me was Tony Stark. Just seeing him deal with all the stuff, seeing him going through building his machines and all that stuff. And I don't know, that one I was still entertained. I was still able to watch the whole movie, even though it wasn't that good of a movie. So
like it was cool that they got back to basics for him, and it was a good character building movie. But in terms of like the MCU, I don't think it really added anything. Like, and if anything, it painted them into a couple of corners because then they couldn't use AIM the way that they could like use AIM in the future. You know, like now it's limited by what they just did.
Yep.
And then, like, now we have to explain why the Mandarin is this way. Like,
yeah, they almost backed themselves in a corner.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I felt like this movie, in a lot of ways, was a step backwards, like, to the overall narrative, and that's why I'm like, I just don't think it was that great of a movie.
Oh, but see, I thought it gave Tony a lot of progression. Like after this movie, he came out like a new man. You know what I mean? Like he was re-energized. He wasn't like broken and all like.
Oh yeah, he was definitely
and stuff like that.
He was definitely a new kind of asshole.
And I like he came out with new technology for his suits that you haven't seen before. Yeah. That's the one thing Iron Man got right. Every time in all of his movies, when he loses, whatever his weakness was, you see his new suit has like an improvement to fix that weakness. I always thought that was cool.
No, it definitely grew him as a character. I just don't think it grew the MCU.
No, not really. It was almost like a standalone movie.
Yeah. So like, I feel like it would have been a really good MCU series. Like if they had taken like 6 episodes and told the same story over 6 episodes.
Yeah, probably would have. Yeah.
Like I think that would have went over a lot.
This was before the time where they were doing stuff like that.
This is true. Yeah. Like the only show they had was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time. So I would give it like probably a 23 or a 24. Like
we'll go 24 and you can move it up.
We'll say 24.
Me, I'm gonna say 21 for right now.
Yeah,
because like I said, I still kind of enjoyed it.
It was like, I mean, it wasn't bad. It was cool. Like you said, they did really develop Tony Stark and like reinvent the character, which was cool.
Yeah, and that's why probably the part that I just liked the most. This is all the Tony Stark stuff. So Thor: The Dark World. So what do you think about this? Is Thor's second movie come out with?
So like the second movie, it had a lot of fan service.
Yep.
Like a lot of fan service. But I feel like the story really suffered because of the fan service. Like there was a lot of like dragging scenes. Natalie Portman in the ether. Yeah, like anytime she interacted with that, it really pulled away from the dialogue.
Darcy was good.
So Darcy's entertaining. Now I think like there's a lot of really good moments in this movie that people like miss and step over because like the pacing was so odd throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But like Loki and Thor's relationship was really defined in this relationship. Like the weird antagonistic sibling relationship they have that they love and hate each other both, you know?
Yep.
And like they have an equal standing and an equal understanding why. And that was really established in this movie. That, and I mean like there was just like tons of Easter eggs. Like, all of the designs are all Jack Kirby inspired. Everything that you see in there is all very Jack Kirby. All the storyline is very Louise Simonson. Malekith and the Dark Elves, everything that they handled in there, like, it reminded me of late 70s, early 80s Thor. It was a really, really good throwback, and they did a great job of, like, really engaging the comic fan community. But there was a lot of pacing issues, and as an overall movie, I think it has the same issue as as Iron Man 3. It didn't contribute anything to the storyline other than another Infinity Stone.
Yeah, and then more of like, it was really more about Thor and Loki's relationship. It kind of like defined their relationship, like you said, and then they used that for the rest of the series of movies and stuff like that.
So, I mean, it's a personal favorite of mine. I like watching it, but like in terms of ranking, like I don't rank it that high. Like, I would probably give it like a 19 or 20. Like, have I used 20 yet?
20, you had Iron Man 2.
All right. I would put it at 21. It's below Iron Man 2.
All right.
I was like, because I mean, like I said, it's got pacing issues, and but like the special effects are really fantastic, and I love the makeup. Like the freaking elf like helmets look weird.
They do look weird, especially when they hit that power rock or whatever, and then they turn into that creature. It's like the helmet melts into their face or something like that. I don't know. It was weird. Thor 2 was I don't know. I didn't really like it. It was kind of a drag for me. The pacing was off. They had a lot of exposition, a lot of talking and explaining stuff, and I guess they had to because Thor's so out there compared to the other ones.
I will say, like, all the story that happens afterwards around the Asgardians was as impactful as it was because of Thor 2. Like, if we didn't sit through that, we wouldn't have all the knowledge or attachment to the Asgardians as a whole that we did, like, you know, when it finally came to their extinction and stuff.
Yeah, that's true. You probably wouldn't have that big feeling when their planet gets destroyed. There's only half of them left.
Exactly.
If somebody who didn't watch this movie, they see that scene, it's like, well, another alien planet blown up.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas, like, we have,
now you got a little history of it.
We have, like, a huge movie that has a lot of time spent there with, like, the denizens there, and, like, we know, like, it's a developed world, and so we have a little bit more attachment to it. But yeah, like, story-wise, it's a slack.
All right, so you've talked me up one number to 24. That's what that's why I have it at right now. Until we go through, maybe something else will pop up, and I'm like, no, but for right now, that's what I'm gonna have it at.